So I'm very happy to present Beatriz Gómez Pérez from Zurich. She's from TestingTime, one of our sponsors, and she will present how we iterate on feature to empower our customers. Thank you very much, Beatriz. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning to all of you. Thank you very much for being here and watching my presentation. I don't even want to look at the number of people who are online following the presentation. For me, it's the first time that I joined the ON.UXCamp as a speaker. So thank you very much for the organization to give me this opportunity. Let me share my presentation first. Okay, I hope that it's working. Good. Okay. I just hope that it would be helpful and that you can learn from it. I'm going to tell you how we do user research at TestingTime and specifically how we did it for a recent project. My name is Bea, and I've been working at TestingTime for almost 1.5 years already. As a digital product designer, but actually from my accent, I guess that you understand that I'm not from here. I'm not from Switzerland. I'm from Spain. And before I was working in Barcelona as a user experience designer. I would like to start this presentation explaining a little bit about TestingTime ecosystem, because otherwise I think that it's going to be quite difficult for you to understand the project itself that I'm going to explain. So for you, for those of you who don't know it, TestingTime is a company that recruits test users for user research. It can be for any kind of test, from moderated to unmoderated usability tests, interviews, focus groups, diary studies, etc. And we have two different type of target audience. We have customers and we have test users. Customers are companies that are going to carry out a research and therefore they need users with a certain profile. So they normally go to TestingTime website and they place a request through the order form, which looks something like this, okay? If it is the first time that you are seeing this. And it's just a form with simple steps and in which you describe how many users you need, with what characteristic like age, gender, place of residence, etc., and for when and where. Once we know the profile that the customer needs, we proceed to look for the participants who are the test users. And what we do is to send this kind of screener questions in which they have to answers, and then we know their results, right, from their side. And then once we check with them, we know, okay, we know those people have answered this question. So then we know who are the participants who fit the criteria for our customers. And then we can say, okay, those are the best ones that we found for you. And we always do projects for both sides, for both target audience. We do also for customers and test users. And the most challenging part is to find a balance of experience for both audience, because they are different and they have different needs and they have different objectives. And then what you need to know for understand this presentation is that in December, we launched a new feature, which is basically to be able to write the screener questions that we normally use to filter participants, the one that I showed you previously. So now you're able to write down those questions. Previously, what we normally do, it's like, for example, if you are going to test something for Tesla, you say, okay, the people need to own a Tesla. And then we look for the people and we write down the questions. Right now you have both options. So it works like this. It's very simple. You just write down the question here, like for example, here, what means of transport do you own? And then you select the question type. We have 3 different question types. We have multi-select, single select, and free text. And then you can write as many answers as you need. And then you select the type of answers that is going to rule the question. And for this, we have 3 options for multi-select. We have qualify, which means that the user must select that option to arrive to your test. We have irrelevant, which means that the person may select that option, but it's not going to affect. It doesn't matter if they select it or not. What it's going to affect is qualify or disqualify. And then we have disqualify, which means that if that test user select that option, they are completely out for your test. And then for single select, it works in the same way, but you don't have irrelevant because the user can only select one option. So that's it, actually. It's not that complicated, and we did a lot of research on this feature. It seemed that everybody understood very well the different options, and it was quite clear when we were doing research. But this is how it is, right? And not always goes as expected. And we found a problem. And the problem that we found is that we were having a lot of questions with contradictions. Like, for example, questions that should be single select, they were multi-select, and vice versa. We also have a lot of questions with bad formulated questions or no good answers options. And that actually it's a problem for us, because what we really believe is that a good research starts with a good candidate, with a good quality of candidates. And if we have bad screener questions, that means that we are going to have inaccuracy in our results when recruiting participants. Because it's based on that, basically. And that for us was actually like a big problem, and we decided that we have to tackle this problem as soon as possible. And also for you to make it easy to understand what I'm talking about, because I can understand that if it is the first time that you're saying this, it's really a question, what is that? Then I think it's a bit complicated. So I brought you to the examples. So here you have a bad formulated question, okay? We have seen this several times, a lot of yes-no answers. And for example, here, the question is, have you been on a holiday in the last 6 months? And then the customer used to write yes, no. This question, it's a problem actually, because people tend to say yes. They know that there is a higher chance that the company is looking for people who have traveled in the last 6 months, or people who have a Tesla, or people who have an account in such in a website, right? So they normally know how to do that. And then that's why it's better if instead of that, we ask, for example, when was the last time you went on a holiday? And then you provide multiple choices, like, I don't know, in the last 1 month, in the last 3 months, in the last 6 months. And then you give such a different time slots. And then you don't give a hint about what you are looking for. In this case, it's also 50% chance that they actually got to the right one, right? And then here I have another question. How frequently do you use Slack? This question is not bad formulated. Actually, it's okay. The problem here is the answers. The answers here are often, rarely, sometimes. The problem is that often, what does it mean often, or rarely, or sometimes? Often for me could be once per month, or it could be twice per month, or it could be once in 3 months. I mean, what often means for me doesn't mean the same thing for you. It's something subjective, and that's why it's a problem. So that's why it's much better if instead of that we say, okay, daily, weekly, monthly, or never. Because in this way, we specify the frequency that you are referring to. And this looks, I don't know, quite, it may look like something easy, but we saw that it's actually a pain point for our customers. And that's why now that you know what I'm talking about, I can start presenting the project itself. And for this project, we were involved Ivana as a product manager. She's the new product manager, actually. She started very recently. And me as a product designer. And of course, our product and engineering team, they were all the time through the process with us, and they were helping us all the time. So what was the first thing that we did? We were trying to discover the problem where it is, because we really had no idea where to start with. So what we did is that we started a round of interviews with customers who had asked questions in not very well formulated, so we could understand where the problem was. And we found 4 main pain points when writing screener questions. The first one is that customers did not identify yes/no question as potentially dangerous. And from our experience, we know that these type of questions are misleading because of that, because they know that we are looking for the information. So that was the first one. Then we also saw that irrelevant answer option was not really understood when to use it. I mean, they knew the meaning, but they didn't know how to use it. So that was actually a problem for them. And then we also saw that they didn't quite know when to use multi-select or single select, although it seemed clear at the beginning. When it came to use, it wasn't clear enough. And then finally, we saw that they felt insecure when writing screener questions, as it is not the task that they normally perform. And based on these pain points, what we have identified through the interviews, we decided to do a brainstorming with people from operations, engineers, sales. We always try to do that. Just to think out of the box, and maybe don't have the perspective from product, also from from sales, from engineers, etc. And we came up with several solutions that we then prioritized. We decided to offer our official questions because at TestingTime we have some basic questions that we ask everyone who registers at the beginning. And we know that they are perfectly formulated because we have worked on them a lot, and they are very generic, and they are very neutral and very complete. So we thought that a good idea to help our customers is to provide them these questions as in a question library in which they can use it maybe for inspiration, or they could use also those questions by itself. And then it's actually even better for us because we already know the answers from our test users, because we ask that questions at the beginning, and we also from time to time we also ask them again. Plus, we want to detect when they use yes/no questions, and also warn them like, hey, this is potentially dangerous and why it is dangerous. And then also another important problem that we saw is that in the questions, there was no option escape. What I mean by this is that imagine that you're asking what are of the following services for banking app do you use? And you provide a list of them, but then you don't provide others or none of the above. If you don't provide those options, one of those, the people are forced to lie. They are forced to, or either to close the tab and then they don't finish this real question and then they are out, or they are forced to click in one of the options, even if it is not real. So that's actually a problem. So we decided to also provide that option as a default. So we remind them to use it. And finally, also to help understand better the use case of each option for the type of question and the answers rules, we decided to design a tooltip to help them. So those are the features that we decided to go with. And after that, what we did is a round of, okay, let's maybe do a brainstorming about sketching the different options, and we came up with a lot of different options, and we couldn't define the best one. It was super difficult to say, okay, let's go first with this option, because we really had a lot of good ideas. So the next thing that we decided to do is an expert review with UX and UI designers. We decided to do that because they are experts and they can help us also to design, okay, which of these features work best and have the better usability. And that's why we decided to do this. We did it with 5 people, just in case that we have a tie. And then we provide them different designs that we did. And at the end, we asked them to rate them with this scale from 1 to 4 about usability problem. And to discuss a little bit, okay, what are the pros and cons of each option? And maybe if they find a better way to do those designs, those were very welcome as well. Then with the winners of this expert review, what we did is actually to go with a first round of these features. And this time we decided to do it with customers. We showed then 2 different flows with the winning features from the expert review. And these users were asked also to rate the experience they had with each flow. Here's an example of what we tested in each flow for the question library. I thought that, presenting you all the options for all the features is too much. So here's, for example, what we tested for the question library. So here, what we wanted to figure out is that how they will call it. Will they call it question bank or question library? So we test different wordings. Also, the next thing that we wanted to know is it's okay just to have a search bar, or do they need something else like categories, for example, or something different that we didn't think about? Also, what we wanted to test here is what kind of layout do they prefer? Do they prefer to have more in less space, or do they want to go like one by one and then opening? Also, another thing that we wanted to check is the selection part. Is this something useful for them or it is not? Because here the idea is that when you click, then they are going to appear here, and then you have like an overview of your questions. And then we saw that, for example, the search bar was not enough. We saw that the users found very useful to have categories to filter, because they were like, oh no, but if I have to look for something in the question library, I wouldn't know where to start typing. It's super complicated. So they said that actually the categories were really helpful, but we don't have categories for those questions right now. We have them, and our operation teams know them very well, so they don't need to have categories. So what we did for this is, in the meantime, we were preparing the second round of testing. We decided to do a card sorting, an online hybrid card sorting, in which we thought about different categories, like those are ours, for example, but we'll leave it open. So they can also say, no, I don't want to use device or internet. I want to create a new one. And then, they can also do a mix of combination. And this card sorting was quite good, except for some questions that they were a little bit ambiguous. And then it was like, okay, it could be either here or here. We have a very, very clear answers and results here. So, for example, here you can see that for this question, which of following devices do you own? In this case, it was quite clear because devices is matching the category name. But we also saw that for this all these questions, it was quite clear that almost 100% people prefer to have it in devices. And then when we finished this, we decided to do like a high fidelity prototype in which we did all the possibilities that they could do. And in this time, what we wanted to do is, like, for example, we give them a scenario which was written here, and they have to carry out without help or guidance from my side, which I was the moderator in this case. And in this way, we could check that the solutions that we proposed really help them in a real use case. And then I would like to share with you the final design. You're going to see this first time, actually, because this is something that we are still developing. It's not ready yet for implementation, but it will be available in the next few months. So here you are already in our order form, okay? And we have those steps. And this one, the screener questions, you can find them in the screening tab, okay? And here you will find the different options. If you don't need screening questions, then it's fine. You can go with the first option. In this case, is the one that you can write down your own screener questions. And then in the last option, you have the option of just to say, okay, I need people who own a Tesla, for example, and then TestingTime and write the screener questions for you. And then I wanted to show you how it's going to look like. We're going to have here a box in which you're going to be able to access to the question library. This is the tooltip for the question type. Here you can hover around and then you can read about the different solutions. And then if you need to learn more, you're going to go to a different page. For example, here you can also see that we have none of the above as a default. We wanted to have it like just a reminder in case that people forget about it, then it's there by default, and that's okay for us. And then imagine that you write down yes, no question. For example, in this case, it's quite stupid, but do you have a cat? And then you start typing yes. And then we're going to show a message saying, hey, avoid to ask yes, no questions. And we hope that will help them to understand why. And then this is the final design for the question library. In this case, we saw, for example, that it would really help them to see the answers all the time. And then we are going to go with the categories that we set up. We saw that they work very well. And then you can click on them and you can select them. And once you are happy, you can say add questions. And then when you go to the order form, you're going to see the different options here, and you can edit those questions in case that you need it. And of course, you have to set up the rules on your own. And that is how it's going to look like. But before that, this is the last but not least step of our process. We always share the results with our team. We always, what we do is like, okay, we do one test round of testing, and then we share the results with them. We share with them, okay, we tested this, those were our assumptions, and this is the result. And also at the end of the project, since we are okay or we are happy with the result and we saw that it works, we decided to share with the rest of the team the solutions and how we arrived to those. And just in conclusion, for you to have a clear overview about everything that we did, we started discovering the problem with interviews with customers. Then we defined solutions with a brainstorming session and the expert review. And then we started to test our solutions. We did a first round with customers, and then a second round of tests with potential customers, and then also a card sorting. And it was on a total duration of 1.5 months. And that's it. I hope that it wasn't too complicated to follow. and then you like it. And yeah, now let's have a round of questions.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Any questions, please come forward. There was a question whether the presentation is being online anywhere.
I can share it. Yeah, if that's okay. Yeah, I can. I didn't know that you wanted to have it. Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're gonna share maybe via email or something. I don't know.
If you can, you just post the link in the chat.
Okay, good.
We're already a little bit short on time, so any further questions?
Sorry.
So the next sessions are going to be starting in about 1 minute or so. So if there are further questions, please direct them directly to Bia. I'm just going to be posting her LinkedIn profile, if that's okay.
Yes, perfect.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you so much for attending, and check this Q&A section. Yes. Oh, sorry. Yes, there was a question by Thomas Link. Which metric do you think is the most important for usability testing?
Yeah, a good question. It depends, I will say. It depends on the project, like in which state it is. The most important for usability testing, I mean, it depends on the project. In our case, at the end, what we were trying to validate is that they could perform a normal use case, a real scenario, and that all the features that we implemented helped them to write down their questions, so they wouldn't end up saying, okay, do you have a Tesla? Yes, no. And for us, that was quite good enough. And also, yeah, it went really well. I will say that it depends on the project. It's what we normally do is to have assumptions and try to validate them, for example. And if they are able to carry on and they are happy, we also try to measure the frustration. Like from 1 to 6, how does it make you feel? Are you happy with it or not? And depending on that, yeah, we measure that.
Okay, so I'm sorry that I haven't been able to answer more of the questions. Please direct them directly to Bia or via our LinkedIn page. And now please go on to the next sessions. Thank you very much, Bia, and see you again.
Thank you. Bye.